Okay, you are live and all set to go.
All right, thank you, Annette. Well, welcome everyone to the EDC meeting for June 17th. I am looking at the members that are logged in right now, and I'm concerned that we may not have a quorum today. So if that's the case, we'll use this as an informational session because we do have some of our partners involved in this meeting, and we have some updates to give you on the American Recovery Act. So with that said, I guess, Jennifer, we need to do roll call and then we'll do some quick introductions. And if we have a quorum, we'll do election of officers.
A reminder when I do roll call to please state your name, that you're via Zoom, and the municipality that you're in. Elliot is absent. Harrison, absent. Joseph?
I'm Mark Joseph, New Buffalo, Michigan, via Zoom.
Thank you. Kramer is absent. Richter is absent. Ryman?
Don Ryman from Buchanan, Berrien County. And I'm anything else I have to say?
That was perfect. Walgrim is absent. Yarbrough?
Mamie Yarbrough present via Zoom from the city of Benton Harbor.
And we have 3 present, 5 absent. We do not have a quorum.
Okay, I had a feeling that was likely to happen today. I apologize for that. What Jennifer and I are going to do is get on the horn and individually reach out to members of the EDC with an updated meeting schedule and a reminder that their participation on the board is mandatory. So we will hit the pavement and make sure that we can get our members here to show up. Alternatively, there is a provision in the county policy that says if members meet, I believe, if they miss more than 1/4 of the annual meetings, they can be removed and new members appointed. Which, if we're struggling to get quorums in these meetings, we may have to have the commissioners look at that as an option. I do want to give some introductions though, because I think that some of you haven't met before. Kelly Ewald is the new community development director down in Berrien Springs, and she is asked to be included in these meetings, and we're happy to have her involved in this. Rob Cleveland, I think everyone's met Rob before. He's the president of Cornerstone Alliance. Arthur Havlicek, I'm not sure everyone's met Arthur. I think you may have. Arthur is the CEO of the Regional Chamber of Commerce. And for those of you who have not met our new county administrator, even though I think he's coming up on his 1-year anniversary with us, Brian Dissett is with us as well, and he's the county administrator for Berrien County. And of course, you all know Annette, who's our technology guru and makes these meetings work for us. So, since we do have some people that have shown up here, I want to go through, even though we can't technically take action or have decisions made on certain things. I wanted to talk with everyone about the American Rescue Plan Act that was passed by Congress in March, and that provides substantial assistance to local and state governments to respond to the COVID crisis. And some of the ideas that were bouncing around on what could be done with the money involved in this act. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen so I can show a couple slides to you on how this act works and what we expect to come out of it. So let me give me 1 second here. Yeah, and I'm going to pull up. Okay, so the ARPA is what we call it. The American Rescue Plan Act was passed in March of this year, and it appropriates an enormous amount of money to state governments, local governments, territories to try to help deal with lost revenue as a result of the COVID crisis, and also to help us respond to the economic effects of the crisis. The long and short of it is Berrien County is going to receive directly $29,751,000 from the U.S. Treasury. In fact, we have already received 14.8 million of that, and it's basically sitting in an account right now while we determine what to do with it. We can use this money for the following purposes: to mitigate public health emergency, or the negative economic impacts of the COVID crisis, and that would include direct assistance to households, small businesses, nonprofits, or direct impacted industries, focusing on tourism, travel, and hospitality. We can replace lost revenue that we've experienced to the extent that we need that revenue to continue operations or to provide services to the public. And there's undoubtedly, we're going to have some lost revenue replacement that'll be necessary. We can make investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, only those three infrastructure activities, water, sewer, and broadband. And I know that we're considering some uses of the funds for those purposes. And we can also provide premium pay to eligible workers who were performing essential tasks during the COVID crisis. For the purposes of the EDC, though, what I really want to talk about is what we could do potentially as a county to help small businesses that have been impacted by COVID. Now, in addition to the money that we have available to assist businesses, the Treasury has also, of course, made the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Relief Program more expansive, so that businesses that have seen lost revenue as a result of state mandated closures or occupancy limitations are eligible to apply directly for these funds to support their businesses. Moreover, the Act created a nearly $29 billion fund administered directly by Treasury called the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And under this fund, restaurants and food service industries businesses can apply directly for Treasury for up to $5 million in revenue replacement assistance per location, or 10 million in aggregate, which is great. And I know that the restaurant industry in this county has been directed to this fund, and we hope that they're utilizing the available money because it's first come, first served basis. Unfortunately, what this fund cannot support is revenue losses in businesses such as gyms, banquet halls, bed and breakfast, hotels, wedding planners, photographers, theaters. You can think of all of these tourism, leisure, hospitality industries that have been negatively impacted by COVID over the last 14 months, but they are not eligible for this direct funding from the federal government. So one of the things that we have discussed with our partners is taking a portion of the county's allocation of this money and putting it into a direct business assistance grant fund, where we would solicit applications from affected businesses saying essentially, show us your revenue losses, by comparing your 2019 gross receipts to your 2020 gross receipts, less any assistance that you've received from other state and federal programs to replace that. And we could potentially replace a portion of that lost revenue directly as a direct grant to the business. We have met on a number of occasions, by we, I mean Cornerstone Alliance, Connexus, the Regional Chamber, the Niles Greater Chamber, to discuss how we could craft a program or a proposal that would make sense and what the total scope of businesses would be that we could potentially provide assistance to. And we think that we would be looking at somewhere around 500 businesses at the local level that were primarily involved in leisure, hospitality, and tourism, that are not direct beverage and food and service businesses, because they get their allocation. They can get their allocations directly from the federal government, and some retail businesses we know that are supportive of the leisure and hospitality industry. Todd Gustafson's folks at Connexus worked up a kind of an analysis of that for us, and it turns out there's about 500 or so, plus or minus, businesses in Berrien County that would fit those qualifications. Our thought was that we would create a fund and market it directly to these businesses and say, through a very simple application process, show us your lost revenue, less any gain from other programs. We will review those applications, and if the business is eligible under the parameters of the program, we would recommend that the business be provided a grant for a portion of that lost revenue up to a maximum amount. And we have yet to determine what that amount would be. The theory or the working strategy here is that we would include this board, the EDC, and the review process of those applications. So the idea would be that the county would carve off a portion of funds, solicit applications. The applications would go to our partner organizations who would review them and write recommendations. Those recommendations then would come to this board on a monthly basis, and you would review them and vote whether or not to recommend the release of grant funds to those businesses. The recommendation obviously would go to the County Board of Commissioners, who would have the final say on whether or not to release the funds. Additionally, Connexus is offered to help provide fiduciary management over this fund. For a variety of reasons, the county doesn't want to be in a position of writing hundreds and hundreds of individual checks to businesses. It would make a lot more sense to sub-grant the money to Connexus and then direct them to release the funds upon the approval of the Board of Commissioners. But that's essentially what we're working with right now. There's a lot of unknowns. First of all, we don't know the total scope of the businesses that we'd be looking at. We don't know the amount of funding that would be available in total. And most importantly, the U.S. Treasury is still crafting rules on how to expend these funds. They issued something called an interim final rule about a month ago. They've been taking public comments on that rule. That public comment period expires, I believe, July 16th. After which it's expected that Treasury will issue the final rule that will give the actual guidance to the county and local governments on what's eligible and what's not eligible. I can tell you, though, it is expected that a business assistance program in the nature that I just outlined will be considered an eligible activity for this funding. The final consideration is that all of this, even if the EDC is in support of moving forward in a direction like this, all of it would be contingent upon the Board of Commissioners actually authorizing this program of this nature. Our hope is that we can come back at the July meeting with some kind of fully fleshed out proposal for this board to review. And if you're satisfied with it, this board would make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners on whether or not to fund the program, and if so, what the size of that funding should be. So I've spoken a lot. If Rob and Arthur have anything to add, because they've been involved in these discussions, or if Brian has anything to add, that's essentially the path that we're heading down right now.
Hey, Dan, I'll just, this is Rob. I'll just add that, we appreciate the collaboration and we'll be ready to work with you guys in whatever way we can. We've talked about setting up a website and a domain, and we'll be ready to do all that. We're going to make it as efficient and automated as possible, and we'll follow your lead, and we'll get it done.
I would add one additional thing too. Thanks, Rob. But Jeff Ray down in Niles made the recommendation, and Arthur as well, that in addition to this program, we should probably put together some kind of countywide marketing program. Not only marketing the availability of grants, but also kind of a, hey, Berrien County is reopened for business, everyone. It's time to come back and patronize our restaurants and our shops and so forth. And I think that would be an allowable use of funds. And I think it would probably make sense to get the word out that, summer tourist season is here. The county is open for business, and we want our patrons to feel comfortable coming back into this area. That's something we also think would be important to do. So I see dead silence from everyone. Does anyone have any questions about this direction, or do you think this is an appropriate way to proceed with at least a portion of this funding?
I don't know enough about it to comment, to be frank with you.
Okay. Don or Mamie, what do you guys think? Would you like to say, do you think this is a project or a program that we should take to the county board and ask for assistance with?
Yes, well, our small businesses in the Buchanan area need assistance.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Congress, go ahead, has given this money to assist them, so let's assist them.
Mm-hmm. And what I think, I wonder about if there are some places that had to close. Can you help them get back in business? Or do you have a limit on the amount? I'm saying a lot of things because it's coming in my head. I hope, like some other programs you see, it's not enough to succeed. Let it be enough for them to be able to get on their feet.
Yeah, I don't know what we would do with a business that has been closed. I guess that a business like that would be looking at new startup capital. It's possible that we could proceed with that. I think that unfortunately, there are some businesses that just won't come back after this.
Right, and not want to.
Yeah. And even if we were to grant money to every eligible business, there's an underlying problem of constrained labor right now. They can't find enough employees. One of the ideas is that a business that received a grant of this nature could use that to provide signing bonuses or premium pay or whatever you want to say to induce employees to come back to work. We had talked about a variety of different, very precise ways to use the money, and we figured the better thing to do would be put it in the hands of the private businesses and say, use this money in the most effective way that you think you can in order to boost your revenues, bring your employees back, provide new training, whatever the case may be. But understand that we have 8,900 registered businesses in Berrien County. We're not going to be able to help all of them. So we need to really focus on those businesses that are most directly impacted by the shutdown, and that would be tourism, leisure, and hospitality, basically.
Thank you.
This is a grant rather than a loan, correct?
I think we would probably want to do it as a grant. I mean, normally the case is that we loan the money. Here, the federal government has actually suggested that the money be granted. If you're going to assist businesses, it would just be granted to the businesses. And I think the rationale for that, Mark, is that, it was government orders that caused them to shut down and limit their capacity and caused the reduction in revenues. So it would make sense that the government funds be used, to replace some of those revenues. Normally, we generally refrain from granting public funds to private businesses, but in this situation, I think it would be fully justified to do that. Well, if there are no other questions, I think what we'll do then is, as I said, Jennifer and I are going to get on the horn and track down your colleagues and basically strong arm them into starting to attend these meetings again. And then we'll come back with July in person with a detailed proposal that we can look at. And we'll ask you to consider what you think the appropriate funding levels would be and what the request of the County Board of Commissioners should be for something like this. But, we're facing two kind of conflicting dilemmas here. First of all, we want to get the money out into the community in the most effective way possible and the most expeditious way possible. But at the same time, without direct guidance from Treasury, we as a county government have to be very, very careful in how we spend these funds because we don't want to be in a position of having to repay them at some point. So my hope is that by the time we convene in July, this will be clarified a little bit and we'll be able to formulate a request to the county board.
So our next meeting will be in person on July 15th, 1:30 again, correct?
That's right. And that is just before the close of the public comment period on the Treasury rules, but we're paying attention to those public comments. And I think by July 15th, we'll have a very clear idea whether or not there are going to be changes to the interim rule that's been published. My guess is right now, there's not going to be many changes to it. Well, that's all I have. This is just more of an informational session for everyone. It's not a formal public meeting. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me. If you have any thoughts or suggestions that we should consider as we move forward with our partners on this, please let me know. Otherwise, we expect to meet in person on July 15th to review this proposal in detail.
Okay.
Dan, I did want to say, we should pursue businesses that have closed and talk to them about whether they have any intention of opening or whether we can help them to get back in business again. I think we have an obligation to do that under this law.
We could absolutely do that. I'm sure that Arthur probably has a good, complete list of those businesses that unfortunately have closed their doors, and we could absolutely look at doing that.
And Buchanan would be our economic development director, Richard Murphy, who I see is not on the ex officio, and he should be, because that's his job for the city of Buchanan, and I think he pays attention to the whole Buchanan area. And
Well,
he's
certain- I mean-
to do that.
I will, you know what? I just had a meeting with Rich about 10 days ago. I will reach out to him and invite him to attend these meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we'll continue to kind of work up a more formal proposal with the expectation that July 15th, we'll be back with you guys to review it in detail with some kind of resulting recommendation to the Board of Commissioners.
That's fine. We'll see you guys next